Hi, everyone. Welcome to Industry Insider. My name is Carrie Wise, and I'm a VP at TrueCar, and I'm joined by my team member, Matt Jones, who's a director at TrueCar. Thanks so much for joining us. And we want to make sure before we jump into Industry Insider that you share this with your friends. In fact, I'm going to go on my Facebook right now and share it. So Matt, while I do that, give them a little background on what Industry Insider is all about.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Carrie and I collectively, we have been in the automotive industry for 40 years. We love the industry, as does everybody at TrueCar. And part of loving the industry is we want to see the industry succeed. And a lot of the ways that we can do that is by understanding that dealerships are in the middle of being dealerships. They don't always have the time to see some of the things that we can see or that other dealerships can see. So what we did here at TrueCar is we wanted to create a platform. And that's what this is, Industry Insider dealer-to-dealer conversations, where dealership movers and shakers can speak to other dealerships in the body, because sometimes the best advice comes from people who are actually wearing your same shoes. Carrie doesn't sell cars, I don't sell cars anymore, but our guest does. So please, like Carrie said, please share, because the more people who see this, the more people we can impact, and maybe you can steal some tips and some advice from Doug and integrate them into your process.
And before we jump in the show, I just want to make sure you know, a lot of dealers were struggling through this COVID pandemic. The industry was tested in ways that it has never been tested. And at TrueCar, we want to make sure that we support you however we can. There are several COVID promotions that we've rolled out to dealers, from billing concessions to remote retailing products that are complimentary through the month of July. I ask you to go to TrueCar.com/dealer blog, and there's a COVID section of the blog, and you'll see a listing of all those different promotions that are available to you right now to hopefully help you deliver a remote retailing experience and give you a little break right now when things are tough. And also, I do want to mention that we just launched Military, TrueCar Military. This is our channel for military service members, veterans, and their families to shop for a car and get connected to one of our TrueCar certified dealers. So I suggest that you check out our TrueCar Military channel and learn from a dealer standpoint what it's about at TrueCar.com/dealer/military. So that's all of my commercials. Let's talk about our guest, Matt. Who are we here to talk to today?
Today's guest is Doug Wells, and he's the GM of Mercedes-Benz and Edison. Now, his store and the other stores in his group, they're all wildly successful. But what Doug is known for, he's known for creating a custom experience for his customers. He knows that he's known as being a team builder. And he's also known as being an influencer for the whole Ray Catena group. Besides all that, he's a really good guy. So I would like to welcome Doug, Mr. Mercedes Wells.
Yes, Doug.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon. I apologize.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we jump in, I know a little bit about who you are. Carrie knows a little bit about who you are. But for the rest of the world who doesn't know who you are, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself? How long you've been in the biz? How you got in?
Taking the glasses off. I've been in the business since 1983. I started selling Lincoln Mercurys. My first day on the job was at a place called Irwin Lincoln Mercury in Freehold, New Jersey. And back then, to get a demo, they said you have to sell a demo. So the very first car I sold on my very first day was a demo. So Monday morning, they gave me the keys to a brand new car to drive.
That's lovely. He's shooting for gold from day one.
Day one. So when I started working for Ray in 1989, I started in sales, and I was a salesperson up until he asked me to go from salesperson to GM in 2006.
Wow.
So one of the biggest things, when I told a friend of mine who was a GM for years and years and years, I said to him, his boat was next to mine. I said, so how do you become GM? He goes, he's making you GM? I go, yeah. He goes, that's weird. I go, well, it is what it is. I said, what do I need to know? I said, I wanted to pick his brain. What do I need to know most about being a GM? And he said, you need to have a very good relationship with your controller, because your controller is going to help guide you in which way everything is moving, so you can concentrate on making those things happen. So you're not spending all day sitting in schedules and spending all your time analyzing a schedule, which if you're a really good GM, your controller should be handling that, and you should just be double checking everything. And this way you're just focusing on how to make the schedules work to the best of the dealership.
Love
and
that.
I
Good
took that to
advice.
heart. So
Love that.
I happen to have in my mind one of the greatest people I could deal with.
That's awesome. What a great career and a long career you've had in the business. So before we jump into your philosophies, especially on custom experiences, I just want to touch on what I think is the elephant in the room, which is the COVID pandemic. And I know New Jersey was particularly impacted, probably more than most states. So describe what your store looked like in terms of this COVID pandemic. What restrictions was your store under? Was it open online? Like what restrictions did you have?
I'll give you an example that it's something we're dealing with. So let's just use the Edison Mercedes-Benz store.
Mm-hmm.
We were December was great. January, we had a great January, great February. March started off up until like the 15th of March. We were on track to blow away last year.
Wow.
And then the world came to a stop.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we delivered a lot less cars and everything changed. And we had to figure out a way to manage the business the best we can, and plus manage the staff the best that we could. Because not only is it everybody trying to make everybody make money and control things, but to me, the staff is family. So you got to keep them mentally in the game. And that was one of the things that we had to try and manage.
So let's talk about that. How did you manage your staff differently? Like what did change because of this pandemic?
Well, the first thing I did when eventually, everybody had to operate from home, and we got the green light to online sales. So instead of customers coming into the showroom, if they needed a test drive, we could meet them at our service department or show somebody a car at the service department. But mostly you're doing your stuff online, over the phone, internet, and the management team made sure they came into the store, did what they needed to do so they could provide all the salespeople everything they needed to do to give to their customers so they could sell and deliver a car and give the best experience we could possibly give in these conditions you could possibly have.
Yeah.
And that was our biggest concern on keeping the salespeople's minds focused. You got to remember, they're used to going to work, interacting, touching, test driving, showing, having the inventory, having everything, where they can walk to see everything they need. When that stops, you got to change everything. So, I immediately went to doing Zoom meetings, especially for Saturday mornings, so that everybody could see each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could interact, talk. They all saw, so they actually felt like they were standing in an actual meeting. And we would give advice when it came, just give advice for stuff, COVID-19. We'd give advice for items that needed to be handled for, how to sell a car, what to do, and talk about the new programs. And as the rules changed, as the COVID-19, everything's changed. They kept moving the goalposts and moving the goalposts. We had to adapt to that as fast as we can. And one of the things that also happened with us is we were already working on trying to make a better online situation with our website. Something like this tends to push things into that we're in the future up.
Yeah.
And we actually have that up and running now on our website, and it's actually working real well. And it's a matter of adapting to something new. It's, it's like even TrueCar. TrueCar wasn't around so many years ago. Dealership sales teams have to adapt. So we try to make sure that you can adapt to it so we could be better at it than everybody else.
Let's talk about marketing. You mentioned your dealership website. Thinking about this COVID pandemic, what adjustments did you have to make from a marketing standpoint? Because we've talked to some dealers who were cutting their marketing spend during this time. Other dealers were leaning in. So what did you do from a marketing spend standpoint, and also messaging? How did you have to adjust your messaging from a marketing standpoint?
So March, we cut it. We just put the brakes on it, which we'd already had marketing started. But we put the brakes on it till we can figure out what we were going to do. For the month of April, I went back into radio, TV, digitally. I stayed on 100%, and we continued to drive that we're there for our customers, and we did a couple of different things. So we did a couple of radio and TV commercials that was strictly about thanking all the people that what I couldn't consider on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people that are in the medical field, or people that are in the grocery stores, or the people that are at the gas station, people that are putting themselves at risk every day to make sure they can help other people. And, it could be a truck driver, it could be the UPS or the FedEx delivery person. So to me, there's a lot of people out there that are still putting themselves out on the line. And so, we put out, newspaper ads, TV commercial, radio commercial, just thanking them. It had nothing to do with sales, just thanking them. The only tagline we would have is, we would put either Mercedes-Benz of Edison, or we put the Catena family of dealerships. And that was a heartfelt thing from the organization in general. And that, came from Ray and his wife, to just do that. And we're still doing that. On the radio commercials and the TV commercials now, we're promoting that we're still here for them, that we're doing all the stringent stuff that they want to be there, and that if they need to contact us for any reason, because there are people that just want to know if they can postpone their lease payments for a couple of months until they get back to work. Anybody has questions, we're there for them, for whether they were buying a car, servicing a car, or just needing help on how to manage their current situation on any scenario. So that's one of the things that we took, to heart. And I think it's going to pay dividends down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think, from a marketing standpoint, sometimes we tend to be very transactional. Like, how do we get more customers in right now, instead of just thinking about really, showing how we care.
Yeah.
Right.
But the salespeople, I told them, because a lot of them hit me first with, how do we call a customer and ask them to come in and buy a car? And don't call them and ask them to buy a car. I said, if you call them, or you email them, or you text the customer, I want you to ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
Ask them how their family's doing.
Yeah.
What I said, and be sincere, because I said, if they want to talk about the car, they're going to lead the conversation to say, hey, by the way, could you tell me how many months I have left on my car? Can I come buy another car right now? And so on. So it's a different mindset. And to me, I told my staff, whether we sell a car today or whether we sell a car in 4 months or 3 months or 2 months, when this is over, we're going to sell the car. But I want you to be concerned with your customer. And
Yes.
that's how the customer is going to steer you in the right direction. And the way I said, if you listen clearly, you use those things that are on top of your head, and you listen to them, they're going to guide you to what they really want to know. And if they need help with anything, give them the right advice. And if we need to help them with service, or, I've had some people that were older that needed help that didn't want to come in, and we arranged to pick the cars up. We sent people with the gloves and the masks and the steering wheel covers and so on. So, we did everything we can to probably try and help these people out the best we possibly can, because we don't want them, our mindset before this even happened is, Ray's philosophy is, anybody can sell somebody a car once. Right color, right price, right time, right mood. Sell them a car for a lifetime, and they're all family members, then you're really doing your job.
Yeah.
So
that's really what our mindset is.
One of the things that really stands out about automotive, because even before getting into automotive retail, I was in retail, and the level of service, when you talk about the human aspect, what you're just talking about, don't call to sell them a car, call to see how they're doing. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of industries that actually take it to heart like that, and I really think that's a significant change. What other adjustments did your salespeople have to make to the process? I mean, the nature of the phone call and the outreach had to change. What about with remote retailing or trade-in appraisals? How else did things change?
Well, trade-in appraisals. So a lot of the stuff which enhances, they would ask for the customer to go do a walk around, take pictures of their car, and describe it perfectly, which, believe it or not, most people didn't have an issue. And sometimes they would videotape the car. On our side of the fence, I would have salespeople come in, and the customer wanted to see a particular car. They'd come in and do a video walk around and send that video to the customer and give them all the details. They would make appointments to schedule for them to come in and see a particular car at the service center, or even at the test drive, or to go to their house. Also, when you're doing that, you're really dealing with, your closing ratio should be extremely high, because somebody that's going through that process, it's like if somebody shows up on a snowy day here in New Jersey to look at a car, they're not there to look, they're there to buy a car. So if somebody asks you to bring a car to their house, if you bring the car that they've asked you for and you present everything as super transparently the way you're supposed to, you're going to make a sale, and you're going to maintain customer.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we've definitely talked about that before. One of our other guests was saying the same thing, that the the benefit of this COVID pandemic is it brought some level of clarity that anybody who's still shopping for a car right now is obviously like needing a car, right?
Yeah.
They're not just a tire kicker that just looking at cars. So no, that's a really, really good point. So let's transition now to, custom experiences. And I know you're known for, customization and personalization for your shoppers. When you say custom experiences, what does that mean? How would you describe that?
When we do a custom experience for a customer, it's extremely transparent. Process the numbers for the customer. We send them, if it's via email, let's just say, or if they're sitting at the desk, it's in black and white for them. It's explained clear. We're a little different than most car dealerships. We do not have an F&I department in any of our dealerships.
Didn't know that.
Wait a minute.
I mean, that's different. That's
wow.
We're going to have to talk about that.
Yes. So your salesperson handles the customer from A to Z. So they handle the process from selling, and then they handle doing the paperwork. If the customer wants a wheel and tire warranty, or has questions about the extended warranties, whatever it may be, they're sold to by the salesperson. He handles, or she handles, the whole thing. We have DocuPad offices that are set up like their F&I offices, but the salesperson brings the customer in there and they do the whole process, and they handle the whole thing. So they're in total control of the deal. And the customer tends to feel like they're not getting moved around. Mm-hmm. Because you know what happens? You move somebody from one desk to another desk, and the personalities change, or the conversation changes.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more control. And this is something that Ray's always believed in, and it works. I mean, most dealers go, what do you mean you don't have an F&I department? It's a big profit source. Yeah.
We got to break that down more. I'm chomping at the bit. How long have you had this process with, where a salesperson is kind of handling everything from beginning to end?
From day one, since the time the dealership opened.
Really? Because I was about to ask you what your transition was like to this process, but you guys have been doing this for decades then.
Yeah. So most of our sales staff, especially the ones that have been here for a long time. So when I said earlier, I went from salesperson to GM. Remember, I was salesperson. I did all these different things, all these aspects. I handled F&I. I did all these things for our customers. It helps, gives you an idea of the total roundness of what you need to do to handle a customer or to answer a question.
Yeah.
You don't want to have somebody ask a question. You got to say, well, let me go check with my F&I person. Mm-hmm. The customer doesn't feel that, what I call that warm and fuzzy feeling. It's sort of like if you go to a doctor and you say, what's this on my arm? And the doctor says, I don't know. Maybe I'll send you to a dermatologist. You're like, really? I came here for no reason. I should have just gone to the dermatologist. But part of our other delivery experience that I've always believed in is, when customers need service, most of my sales staff are really heartfelt, where they arrange to help schedule the appointments, help the customers with those things. Because when you control everything and you're talking to your customer all the time, the customer now builds a real big bond with you. If you sell the customer a car,
Ricky Quan, call holding line 1. Ricky,
they have a question, and they need help, and I know that there's the one person they could always answer the question for them. They feel that loyalty to that particular store and that location.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best things that you could possibly do.
That's fantastic. Creating custom experiences like that. I mean, an environment where your salesperson is essentially the only person that the consumer deals with has really got to go a long way to strengthening that bond, as opposed to them dealing with multiple people. No matter how good they are, or no matter how good the process is, just hanging out with one person has really got to make things a little bit more tight and cohesive. So have there been any adjustments to that process? I mean, I'd imagine in this current environment, a lot of it could stay, or
we're still doing it. We're still helping, and the salespeople are still doing everything they can for their clientele. The customers seem to be very appreciative. You'd be surprised how many customers say thank you. They're going online. They're going onto things like DealerRater or Google, and they're writing reviews that, they bought 3 cars, and the salesperson really went over and above, and they appreciate how they made everything happen and made it easier for them. It's a learning curve, and it's a different experience, not only for our clientele, but it's a different experience for the entire staff.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to adapt to, because I think a lot of this stuff is going to come full circle where you're going to, so it's sort of like you're being forced to train real quick. But our team is, they're embracing it. And the key is, as things new come around, if you embrace it and you want to learn it and maximize and make it work to the best of your ability, you'll be the most successful. If you're not going to be successful.
You got a shout out. We got a lot of people who are watching this live. You got a shout out from Alex Fernandez. He's a client success manager with us, and he says customers love the Ray Catena experience. So
Alex, I said hello.
Yeah, he's vouching for that. So I plan on asking you something different, but I gotta stick back to this experience of somebody handling the entire experience, and the fact that you've been doing it for so long. Because I've definitely heard of it in stores, but it feels like other stores, this is more of a newer thing for them. And the fact that you guys have been doing this so long, it's really impressive. I'm assuming that you have to hire a different type of salesperson, right, than like the average store, or do additional training.
I think it's not even that. I think it's a culture.
Okay.
You want salespeople that want to work hard and want to make a very good living. Mm-hmm. But they also want to build up a customer base. So sort of like mindset is to be like, if you're in the insurance business, you make more money because you keep getting your renewals, and then you have your old stuff so it keeps coming back to you. If your mindset is, I'm going to sell that customer and then never see them again and don't take care of them, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You should write a handwritten thank you note, which most people don't. I have one of my salespeople. It does one of the smartest things I've ever seen. She writes a handwritten thank you note after the people take delivery, and at the same time, she writes up the holiday card for that customer and puts it in a box. So come December 15th, she has all her holiday cards already done to put in the mail. She took an extra couple of minutes to do it now instead of waiting until December. Right. To write up 1 million. Now there are a lot of people that say people don't read cards or don't this. I say when somebody has when your CRM tells you it's your customer's birthday, call them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many of us, as we get older, we don't get any calls on our birthday?
No.
When somebody calls you,
it's special.
I have a salesperson, believe it or not, on Rodeo Drive at the shoe store. I'll spit it out.
Oh, I don't know.
Ferragamo.
I don't shop on Rodeo.
I was there for Mercedes.
It's out of my budget.
I was there for a Mercedes-Benz meeting, and I had an experience that was completely different. And what happened is they had a thing where they had spouses, men and women spouses, that weren't after going to the dealer part of the meeting. They took them for a luncheon at a mansion in Beverly Hills, and then they took them shopping on Rodeo Drive. Now, not everybody was shopping on Rodeo Drive, but they made everybody go home with something. So they were carrying something.
Nice.
But my wife told the gentleman at the Ferragamo store, said, I'm going to bring my husband back tomorrow to meet you. So we go back to show you how smart this salesperson is. And see, to me, I look at this, and I experience this in every type of business. And this salesperson sees my wife, and he sees me walking a little bit ahead, and he walks up to me and says, Mr. Wells. So he remembered my wife's last name. And I look at him, I go, yes. He says, can you do me a favor? I said, what? He goes, could you have a seat right here? So I sit down. My wife walks up and goes, why are you sitting down? I go, he asked me to. We walked out with 2 glasses of champagne. He just said, I want to thank you for coming here all the way from the East Coast. I said, if I can help you with some shoes. I ended up buying 2 pairs of shoes and 2 belts.
Wow. That's amazing.
Out and the rest he FedExed to my house. And he sends me a card and calls me for my birthday every year now.
From across the country.
And he says, Doug, you can buy it. If you like a Ferragamo, you can buy it from me over here, and I'll ship it to you free of charge. So to me, it's somebody that really enjoys, somebody that really knows how to do business right and give the best experience you can possibly give. That's how I think that's one of the things I think really goes over sight. And I can tell you one other story if you don't want me to bore you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So about 6 years ago, there was a Chinese dealer meeting. I know that doesn't sound right with the COVID-19 going on right now, but there was the Chinese dealer meeting at the Waldorf Astoria. And they asked Ray Catena to be the guest speaker at a bunch of many other speakers. Ray, for some reason, was sick, and they panicked, and they said, Doug, nobody knows the organization like you. Can you speak for Ray? Okay. So I go in. Now, I'm not going to speak to Chinese people. So the first thing I did is a salesperson of mine who's Chinese. I said, David, what do I do? He says, they're probably going to have translators. A lot of them are going to speak English. He says, but I go, how do I show respect? He says, when you get there, just stand up on the stage and say, ni hao, do a small bow. And they're going to be like, wow. So out of all the guests that were speaking, I'm the only one who did that.
Wow.
But there was a speaker from the Ritz-Carlton, and she was the head of training worldwide. And I still wish I got to find her name someplace, but she was really incredible. But she tells a story of how doing something a little different can change everything. So she tells a story, which was fairly new for her, that a young man went to the Ritz-Carlton off of Central Park to stay. And he walks up to the counter, and he says, I'm here to reserve my room. And she goes, oh, she says, so what brings you to the Ritz-Carlton in Central Park? And he says, well, I'm going to get engaged. I have my girlfriend's going to come stay, and my game plan is to get engaged to her. He goes, but I don't really know how to do this. I'm a kind of a nerdy guy, blah, blah, blah. And the lady says behind the counter says, well, you're doing something right. You're at the Ritz-Carlton and off of Central Park. She says, let me ask you a question. She says, what if I could help you? He goes, what do you mean? We have telescopes in all our rooms to look at the park. One day you want to do it. She goes, I want to do it tomorrow night.
He's on the phone. I can see him next to me. He's on the phone.
What time? He says, okay.
No problem.
We'll have a bellman down there with a sign that says, Karen, will you marry me? You could really do that. He says, yeah. She says, and if you want, we could set up champagne to be right outside the door. So when she says yes, you can open up the door and bring the champagne in. He goes, wow, you could really do all this? She goes, yeah. She says, but I'm going to warn you, when she does say yes, you're not going to talk to her for about 45 minutes. He goes, what do you mean?
Hey,
Because she's going to take the champagne glass, she's going to hug and kiss you, and she's going to call her mother, her grandmother, and her best friend. He was blown away by this. Well, bottom line was, it all went off without a hitch. 9 months later, where do you think the wedding was?
At the Ritz-Carlton.
Ritz-Carlton in Central Park. And she says, you know what it costs to have a wedding at the Ritz-Carlton?
Mm-hmm.
The difference was, instead of her just saying, well, the elevator bank is to the left, just go to the left, she asked one question. What made you choose the Ritz-Carlton in Central Park? And then she, with sincerity, cared about the customer and went over and above.
I think I found
and to me, you do that in everything you do, whether it's selling a car or whether it's being in a hotel, it's going to pay dividends.
So that's so strong.
That
so
story
strong.
is from like 7 years ago. And
That's so awesome.
That's how much I believe in that story.
Well, and you know what? It's funny because I was about to say it doesn't take that much effort. It takes being genuine. But even the guy that called you Mr. Wells, that didn't take him a lot of effort, like remembering your wife's name. You know, it's those little things that have such a big impact. So that's great. So, okay, let's talk about customers. So we talked about how dealerships need to adapt and how they should be providing custom experiences. But how do you think the customers' expectations have changed?
Joey, it is a
and it sounds like your dealership's in a good position to meet that change in customer demand.
And Mercedes are always expecting the best.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had a great experience at a Honda dealership or a Lincoln dealership or a Chevy dealership, when they go into a Mercedes, they're expecting that experience to be 50 times better. So that's the expectations they're already looking for, in any luxury car segment. So you have to expect that, and you have to be prepared to give that, because that's what the customer's expecting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, why do they buy a Mercedes-Benz or any luxury car? It's not because it's going to get them to A to Z faster or whatever. The real reason is because they want to feel special. It's why you go out to a very good restaurant. It's why you buy a good bottle of wine. It's why you buy a fancy pocketbook. You want to feel special. It's like a reward. So
absolutely.
I think that for us, it's time. Everybody, the speed is faster. They want answers faster. They want to make decisions faster. And the people that are prepared to give those answers and provide everything in a fast, efficient, and great experience way are really going to thrive.
Absolutely. And would you say the same thing if you were running a Honda store or a Ford store or non-luxury?
So I'll
Would
give
you
you
have that same philosophy?
So in the 80s, I worked for Lincoln Mercury,
Okay.
which I thought the Lincolns were the best cars in the world, and size and luxury and all the stuff.
$40,000.
But the European companies started taking over. And the main difference that I saw wasn't so much the actual product itself. It was the way people were treated in service and in sales compared to the luxury. They gave a better experience. And if you think about it, a lot of these brands today have caught up in price to some of the luxury cars.
What's that deal number?
The ones that give you the best experience. You know, I could have the greatest car in the world, but if I treat everybody badly, that car doesn't mean anything.
No.
So
Good.
if you have a great product like we have, make it easy for us. And it could be Mercedes, it could be BMW, it could be, everybody makes a good product. It's if you give the best experience, because everybody's going to, I think, buys the salesperson
Doug?
before the car.
Absolutely. Strong.
It's like, I love Mercedes, I love luxury, but I can't agree with you more. Sometimes it's the service that pulls people apart. And I see that you're actually, I think it's within our business, we have sometimes people who are not necessarily passionate about the product. That you've done demoing AMG and DLA, so I know that you are passionate about it, and I really like that you embrace video.
If I ever got fired and I wanted to work for another brand, I don't know if they would hire me.
But I think when you see a GM creating a video about a product, right? Not just about how good the product or how good the store is or the services they offer, but when a GM is talking about a product, I think that's really custom. I think that's really personalized. Are there any other tools that you're using to like keep things personal, above and beyond just like the experience? I mean, like, is there anything else that you're using like video or any other tools to keep things, tight?
Video I've been doing for a long time. YouTube a lot. We make videos that are a little more real, not so boring. A little more about a real experience. If you go for a ride around, just talking about certain things. Sort of like when you go on a test drive. Most people, depending on the brand, like my favorite thing is if you talk about a BMW store versus a Mercedes-Benz store. The BMW guys, let's get in and go real fast, hit the brakes, go into a turn. What they're trying to do is get your adrenaline running.
Yeah.
And I always tell everybody, let's get behind the wheel of the car. Drive it the way you normally drive. Just so that you see how you feel, if you like it. Then if you want to see how it handles and accelerates and slows down, then go to that step. But first, you want to get comfortable with it, because you want to be comfortable before you start trying to push the car to certain limits.
Sure.
And when you talk to a customer that way, they actually kind of get blown away by that. And they understand it better, because most people aren't telling them to do that.
Right.
So depending on the car, they focus on what it does. So that's one of my mindsets.
I think that's Gregory's.
I also, if I was going to ever like write a book about sales, most people write a sales book and it's about how to manipulate or trick somebody into buying something.
I tried to sell.
And you hear this one commercial on the radio all the time about sales and techniques and this and that. To me, if I was ever going to write a book, it'd be called Sincerity.
I like that.
Be sincere. Treat your customer the way you want to be treated, and treat them like you want to sell them for a lifetime. And that will work.
I have one here.
No, that's strong. So you talked about, I think you talked about one of your salespeople who, does these kind of like surprise and delights, whether they're calling someone on their birthday or sending them a gift. And when you said that, it really reminded me, we interviewed a guy named Ollie Rita. I don't know if you know him, but he won the Guinness Book of World Records, or he broke the record that had not been broken since like the 70s. He sold 1,500 cars, that's new vehicles only, by himself in Dearborn, Michigan. And we interviewed him a couple shows ago, and he does all of this special stuff for the customer, and he's involved in his community, and, he doesn't even take ups. This is just like pure relationships. Yeah. And so I think about him, and he's almost like a real estate agent. He works for the dealership, but he almost has his own business himself as a salesperson. And so when you think about your salespeople and custom experiences, do you give your salespeople some flexibility to bring their own customization or personalization to the experience?
100%. I have a bunch. They all do their, a lot of them do their own thing, and a lot of them are building up a really good business, and they're going that extra mile. And the rest, I'm leading the horse to the water and trying to show them how to build a business that, when I'm long gone, they're really thriving. It's, one of the things that will give you an idea, our 3 Benz stores signed up with a package for their MBUSA, which was not inexpensive. And it was a care package that gets mailed out to the customer after, a couple of weeks after they took delivery, with a beautiful thank you. It almost looks like it's coming from Neiman Marcus.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's got a bunch of beautiful, high quality items in it. And it's something the customer is not expecting. So when they get it, they're really surprised. Like a beautiful thank you. And before we did this, Ray's philosophy, we used to send customers a plant with a thank you card. And also Ray was so smart, he would put on a couple of questions. Were you treated right? Were you introduced to service? This is long before people started even ask. This is way ahead. What average, did you made you choose Ray Catena? So that he could learn more about his customer base and adapt to what they were choosing. So it's like my opportunities. I got to work for one of the greatest car guys in the world, and I call it the best car college you could ever go to. And we do things differently. Like used cars, we only sell Mercedes-Benz in the Mercedes-Benz store.
What? Wait, say that again.
We only sell used Mercedes-Benz. I won't sell a used off-brand. If I take a BMW in on trade, that's a retail piece, it goes to our BMW store. If I take a beautiful Lexus, it goes to our Lexus store.
Wow.
He wants the car to have the manufacturer's warranty. He wants it to be taken care of. If we take a Bentley in on trade, as nice as it is, it gets wholesale, where most dealerships are selling every used car.
So why is that? Why do you only sell?
How can you ruin your reputation the best?
Sell a bad car.
A bad used car.
Yeah.
Not a new car, a used car. If you sell a brand that you don't service and don't have a real warranty, and you have to try and maintain it and control it, and you don't have all those tools that you normally have, like you have with your own actual brand, you can give a not so good performance to your store that you would normally like to give. And Ray's philosophy is he wants to sell you a car for life.
That's a really, really good tip. I haven't heard that from other dealers. And the other thing I think that was really interesting about what you said was salespeople have flexibility to personalize the experience, but you also focus on the scale, like giving, the surprise and delights that anybody in your store could offer, just, for the people who haven't quite caught up to your top, salespeople. I think that's really strong.
Yeah, we have, every customer, when they get delivery, besides the keychains, we have easy pass holders, hats, coffee mugs, just things that, some people could care less about. Some people are like, they love that stuff. I stockpile little Mercedes-Benz teddy bears. Even if the people hadn't bought a car yet, they're there with a young child, they get a teddy bear.
That's awesome.
On top service, like that is what separates you from. We went. I'm sorry, Mother's Day was a couple days ago. We went to dinner for Mother's Day, grabbed some food. Right, in the middle of COVID, we're limited. You can't go in. You can't really sit down. Went in there to pick up the food, and the service was exceptional. It was exceptional. I've eaten at this place before. Service was good. Food's always great. In this case, the service was exceptional. So guess what's going to stand out when it's next time is like in the middle of this, pandemic, in the middle of the world stopping. You just treated me like I'm a king on the day that it went. And that's that cherry on top. And giving somebody a teddy bear, whether they buy or not, that's
that's really strong. Just people knowing your name these days is like really important. And I gotta say, let me just admit that I am the worst person when it comes to names, like remembering people's names. But I gotta say, it is kind of a great thing when you walk in somewhere and someone knows your name or tries to get to know you in any way. Like it's unusual these days, right?
Yeah. And in an environment where people are spending a whole bunch of money, the average car costs $37,000.
I tell everybody with the CRM, if you use it to your best of your ability, it's your greatest assistant you could have. If you write down everything about the children, the this,
Yeah.
Yes.
graduating college, put the notes in for yourself because you can't remember everything. But when you pull
Right.
up the information, it's there, and you go talk to somebody, it just goes miles. I mean, one of the things I remember going when Roger Penske took over the Smart franchise to bring it into the States originally. I go to the first meeting out in Detroit, and my name is written gigantic. First time I saw a name tag just so big on this. And Roger walks up to me and goes, "Hey, Doug, how are you?" And act like, we knew each other forever, which I knew who he was. And I go, "Roger, why is it my name's so big?" He goes, "So I could see from a mile away."
It's all, man.
He wanted to be able to say your name when he was coming to talk to you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very smart thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. Let's transition a little bit if we can in the remaining time that we have. I want to talk about what's next. Now, at some point, we're going to transition into a new normal, whatever that is. Have you given any thought to what that looks like for auto dealers? Like, what do you think is next? And how do we get ready for that?
Personally, I think that you can have some online information, a lot of stuff being done online, but I still think the customer, especially for an item that costs as much as an automobile, whether it be $15,000 or $200,000, they still want to see, touch, and test drive. So that aspect of it is not going to disappear. My gut feeling. I just think you need to be faster, more transparent, and be able to adapt to what the customer's needs are. If somebody's online searching, the example is I always tell everybody put in information about a car, see how many dealers respond to you, or give you the information that you requested. If somebody wants pricing and wants details, give them that information right up front. Give it to them fast and quick and more detailed, and give them a few other options too, just to help them make a decision. I just think that you're going to need to be really on top of your online game, and I think you're gonna really need to be on top of how you handle your phones. My philosophy is you could hear a smile through a phone.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to understand and know the needs of the customer rather quickly, because one of the things they've always checked off, whether it's any manufacturer, one of the most important things on any survey is value of the customer's time, even with service. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that we're doing is we've got to do credit card machines. Somebody wants to leave a deposit, instead you put their information in, you email them a link that goes to a secure thing. They do the credit card right on their phone legally from their home. It comes right into your system. No swiping or anything else like that. Same thing with service, whatever it may be. It's just adapting to where, you've got to go from what was old into what was new. When I started in the car business, I had a little tin can with index cards with all my customers' names and information and everything on it. And that's what I used to go through. So I just showed you my age, didn't I?
We used to call it a Rolodex. That was a fancier.
Oh yeah, everybody had those big Rolodexes.
Yeah.
Now it's emails, it's and you live on your phone. You have to be able to understand how much the customer's on their phone. So you have to know how to. If that's what they're on, you have to know how to market to what they use and market to them correctly. Because we've all had something where we try to do something, we get frustrated. We'll never go to that site. So whatever you're doing, you got to test it, make sure it's working, and you can't just. Like even your website, design your website, have everything all working, it looks perfect. 3 months later, you've got to stay on top of it because everything is changing and you have to evolve with it. The unfortunate part is you think about how fast the phones have changed so you have to really be on your game. That's why I said especially for a GM, the controller should be paying the most attention to the ledgers. You got to be paying attention to the bigger picture that drives the business.
I think that's so strong. Someone I know would refer to people as SOBs, or students of the business, because you always, especially in the digital marketing landscape, things are constantly changing. So if you kind of rest on your laurels and say, well, I've been in the business for 20 years, I know everything about car selling or digital marketing. It's like, now things change so fast that in some ways, my 13-year-old, I need to learn from my 13-year-old right now. Right? She's on TikTok. I don't know nothing about TikTok. I need to learn about that.
And these younger people so went to TikTok. Like I see them laughing. I go, "Did you see this TikTok?" And they're just scrolling through it. So, I don't know. I don't have time to make a TikTok.
Well, we make fun of that, but at some point, I guarantee all three of us are going to be on TikTok. At some point, maybe a little later than the rest of everybody. But it's amazing how things are changing. So,
well, I embraced social media a long time ago when I first started. So I embraced it, and one of the tricks was put a lot of personal stuff out there, then throw a piece of business in.
Yeah.
If it's all business, they're not going to watch it.
Yeah.
So if you're sharing, what restaurants or what vacations, or you're sharing interesting things that people actually like to see,
Yes.
then all of a sudden you throw in something about your business, they'll stick in their memory bank. But if you just focus on business, they're not going to pay attention to it.
Yeah, no, that's why you thanking all the first responders and the essential workers, like that's strong, right? Because
That's how we feel.
Yeah, it's authentic, and it's also really connecting to the community and not just selling cars. So you've made a lot of changes we heard earlier due to COVID pandemic in terms of like delivering cars and how you're interacting with customers with this COVID pandemic. Is there anything that you changed to adjust that you're going to keep even after this pandemic is over, like that worked for you and you were kind of surprised on?
The online process and and trying to do as much stuff via email and over the phone, so that the customer doesn't have to spend as much time in the showroom. They can just come, touch the car, test drive it, and then make the decision. That's perfect. So like,
And loyalty, right?
We were impressed with how much we actually were able to do in the month of April.
Wow. Yeah. So you're saying like enabling, you're going to keep that option of letting customers buy a car and through that path if that's what they want.
And the sales teams really embraced it too. So they've adapted to it. First it was a learning curve.
Yes.
They've adapted to it, and I think that we're going to get the best of both worlds. I think when the lights when they told we could open up the showroom, I think people are going to want to come here. Here we have a 200 cars indoors showroom, so this is a pretty cool place. It's like a destination. So you get to see a lot of cars that you normally can't see, clean and ready to go. So I still think we're going to get that traffic, but we're going to get a lot of people that are going to want to pre-do everything they want to do and be ready to go.
Right. I have one more question on that. This is something very provocative, and I don't know if you thought about it, but like, what about your staff? People, you've been on Zoom right now interacting with people, and I'm assuming your staff has been working from home. Do you ever see a day where maybe some of your staff won't come into the showroom? They'll do stuff from their homes.
We've talked about it. Some of the managers said, I like it when the salespeople aren't all hovering around like that. So
you considered it.
We've discussed that we could actually hire probably 10 more salespeople, and only so many need to be in the showroom.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Matt and I have been at home for a couple months now, and I got to tell you, I'm surprised at how much stuff our teams have gotten done.
If you do it and you do it right, you can be effective. Back in the 80s, we had salespeople. Ray was way ahead of this curve. That would be their job was not to work in the showroom. Their job was to call on people's houses and businesses and go to their house and bring them the cars to their house, and they were considered outside salespeople.
Oh wow!
So it's you got to have a certain type of a personality to be really good at staying in that. Sometimes people need more of a structure of actually having a showroom, a desk, and people to reach. Being that outside person every day, you need somebody to really on their game. And it's certain personalities are going to be great at it, but not everybody is for it. So
true. That's awesome.
We're going to wrap up this last question, second to last question. Okay. Well, a good one. Okay. But I think, like we started earlier, we gotta, we just have to acknowledge the market. The market has been tough. There's been a lot of negativity. It's been a very challenging market right now for everybody. Do you see any positives coming out of this?
So here's my gut. My gut is when they get the green light, we're going to have a boost. I think we're going to have some unpent people that's pent up business. People are going to come out. They're going to want to be out. They're going to want to spend, and this is going to be for everything. I think cars. I think on our side, like I'm in the New York metro area, you may find people buying more cars, and I've been reading some stuff like this versus people wanting to take the train and ferries to the city anymore.
That makes sense.
Just driving their own car.
Sure.
Barron's just did an article, and their prediction is that the luxury car sales are going to skyrocket. It's an interesting article. If you want, I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have a boost. Now, we may have a lull after that. This is my gut feeling because the production has come to a stop. So unless they can catch up with the production, if we have this rush and then all of a sudden there's no more inventory, we'll have a little lull just because we don't have the cars. I also think the used car business is going to skyrocket. The people that can afford to sit on that inventory right now versus taking a bath on stuff because the numbers have dropped. As soon as they open up, everything opens up. There's not going to be any used cars out there. Everything's going to go like this. So I think the smart players are going to be smart. I see if you're in a seasonal area and you have the right product it's going into the right season, don't panic with it. Just understand your inventory, understand your market. And, hopefully I'm right. And anybody who takes my advice and it works out, it's great. If I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be, we're going to get our way through this. And I think that we always have and always will.
That's awesome.
Wow. Well, I got to say, I've learned so much through this interview. You guys have been so impressive at Ray Catena in terms of being well ahead of the curve, and doing some really innovative things. And, it's part of the reason why we wanted to interview you, because we saw your performance even from a TrueCar standpoint. And even in these tough times, you guys were definitely standing out relative to other dealers. So congratulations on your career and to your team at the dealership.
And that's what
amazing.
It is. It's a team. We don't have one person. It can't be done by one person. Everybody in the place is making it all happen.
Yeah. We hear it even behind you. You guys now definitely sound busy. Say hello to your team for us.
And they're making fun of me as I'm saying this.
Hey, let them know you're a celebrity, right? They need to treat you differently after this interview. So, Doug, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if anybody wants to reach out to you, because we got some people on here, we're getting thumbs up. Melissa Skinner says awesome. Josh Sinsky put a thumbs up. So we got a lot of people watching. If they want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
So they can email me at dwells, which is WELLS, at Ray Catena, which is CATENA.com.
D Wells, I'm actually going to post this. D Wells at Ray, CATENA.com. All right. I chatted that out to everybody.
And the phone number for the dealership is 732-549-6600. Ever have an idea, question, advice, we're there for you.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doug, for taking the time out. I know you sound so busy, so we're going to let you go and get back to selling cars, but we appreciate your time.
In the office for tolerating us while we stole you from them.
And by the way, Ray Catena is one of the people I hit. I can't call. I got to make that call next.
Now that's a custom experience, right? Ignoring Ray Catena for us.
All right.
Thank you so much, Doug. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Oh man, Matt, what did you think?
I had high expectations coming in. They weren't. They were exceeded.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I just felt like he was so authentic. I mean, we talked to him for a couple minutes before the interview. You kind of get to know people, as fast as you can, but he was the real deal in terms of what he delivered to customers. Hands down.
Hands down. It's that special experience, from having spent some time in dealerships, that when you can create an environment where you are actually involved with your consumer from beginning to end through the whole thing, it does latch you. And I think you called it out. Some people are starting to catch on, but if they've been doing this for decades, that's incredible. That's just absolutely incredible. So I can't wait to go through this again and jot down some of the learnings. But I just really loved, I really appreciated it. And I said this in the interview, you don't see GMs do product demos. Mm-hmm. He's actually known as Mr. Mercedes or the Mercedes man. He's often called that because he actually loves the product. He's not just selling it. So there's a lot of good things there. I'm so glad that he decided to jump on our show today.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody who's been watching. We got comments from obviously Alex on our team, but Josh, Melissa Skinner, shout out to you. She's doing some great work, and she said she loved the show. So thanks so much for your support. Matt, I think this is the end of our show. Any other thoughts?
No, I think this was fantastic. Something special might be coming next week, right, Carrie? Don't tell everybody what it is, but something special might be coming next week.
Yeah,
So-
we're excited. We're going to keep it under wraps for a little bit, but we got a good show for next week. And what
Yeah.
about the webinar tomorrow?
Webinar Wednesdays with our main man, Ruben Fine.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to put it up on the screen, truecar.com/webinar. They're doing a webinar tomorrow. If you go to the site, you can register on, I think it's on used car inventory challenges
Yes.
during COVID.
Yes, and that's one of the things that Doug had mentioned is, people are struggling right now with used cars. So some strategies with, he's a big shot in used car automotive. It's a gentleman who runs used cars for Crown Automotive. That's not a small deal. So if you're on the call, if you're a TrueCar dealer and you're having some challenges, or you just want to hear what the used car market is like, highly encourage you to log in for this free webinar tomorrow, hosted by our own Ruben Fine with a very special guest.
Yes. Shout out to Lori Foster. She said hello to us right now on Facebook Live. We love Lori. So yeah, join us on that webinar, and we thank you so much for spending an hour with us every Tuesday. This has been so much fun. We'll be back next week with, we think, what will be a special show. We'll reveal what it's going to be, but it's going to be really exciting. Matt, as always, it's fun to be on Industry Insider with you.
All right. Till next week, guys.
All right. See you later.